The plan today on this afternoon, lovely overcast, cloudy afternoon, is going to be reading of the devil. Hopefully, at least a couple hours, depending on what it kind of gives us. Um, Much like a Danganronpa game, if I we're gonna have to play it by ear because I'd rather not like save in the middle of a trial if I can help it, and I don't know when. Because like in episode one, we had the two like trial like sections that kind of like towards the end, and then like in the middle of the episode, and so like. Do we still have like 2 hours or so before the trial happens? Can we get like a good 2 hours in? Are we going to get like an hour or an hour and a half and then the trial's going to happen? And then at that point, do I just push forward and just do the first trial? Are there even going to be two trials? I'm talking like there's going to be the same episode structure as in the first episode, and who knows if that's even true. So we're going to have to play it by ear. But then after that, we'll play some more Nier Automata to end the stream and move ourselves along here. Interesting week ahead on the streams. Should be normal-esque type streams throughout this week. But Monday, maybe excitingly, we're going to start Xenoblade Chronicles. And I'm very much looking forward to that. So that should be Monday stream. We're starting the week off strong with a new game. And then, because I really want to finish Of the Devil, hopefully in the next, 7 days, expect, I would, obviously all highly subject to change, but expect Of the Devil to continue on Tuesday and Friday this week. Either then, at that point, I would imagine we're going to either finish or get close to finishing Of the Devil, and then that'll set us up to maybe finishing it this week, or, coming weekend if we don't finish it then. So think like Monday, Xenoblade, Tuesday, Of the Devil, Wednesday, probably Nier Automata, Friday, probably more Of the Devil. And we go from there. That's kind of what the week ahead, and I'm saying that now because I'll probably inevitably forget to say it at the end of the stream today. But yeah, we're starting a new game with Xenoblade tomorrow. I gotta dust off the old Switch 2 tomorrow. Get that all. I have to change my setup slightly because I don't. Here at my desk where I stream and stuff, I don't have. Normally, I don't keep the Switch over here. I keep it at a different place in my apartment, and so I gotta move some things around and then plug it in and capture it and the whole song and dance. I have to actually. I don't know if I. Oh, I'm just talking about. You guys are just seeing a black screen. Let me change this really quick. I haven't gone into the game, so good on that. I still had titanium quartz set up stuff here. There we go. I have to actually. I think I've talked about this probably is some other Switch 2 stream, gameplay stream I've done, but I have to actually I have to go over to a different part of my apartment and actually pull over a power extension. What are they called? Those things. I keep wanting to say multi-tap, like the PS1 accessory. Not a multi-tap. The surge protector multi-plug things. Because I am so plugged in, probably fire hazard wise, underneath my desk. Not only is cable management so bad, and I'm so glad that it's not it's possible to be seen on stream at all ever, but cable management bad, but also I have such a jerry-rigged plug system going on underneath this desk. I'm surprised many years of using this setup and on a stream and everything hasn't just exploded. But would it be funny if on stream one day everything did just explode and I went with it? The final stream. That sounds so dark. I'm sorry. But you just hear a loud bang. You just hear a loud bang. All right, what are we doing so far? So I think we were 2 streams into episode 2 here. Episode 2 here of the Devil. I was saying that weird. First stream was Morgan trying to get a hold of that mask and killing some people. So the setup. And then episode 2, or stream 2 of episode 2, was getting our assignment and who she will be defending. The guy that she had tried to frame for those killings she did in that first stream. And so we've the oopsies, the conundrum we've now set up is, of course, Morgan has got herself into is she's going to have to defend a member of a very high-ranking family for a crime that she knows he didn't commit because she herself did it. How does she do this to herself constantly, you know? But she can solve it. She's not... You know what? There's a small part of my brain that says she loves getting herself into these kinds of problems. She's a sicko like that. Why do I always have this? Should I delete this save? That's whatever. Alright, let's play a couple hours or so. Morgan's bored. I always forget that I save at those, so I gotta press like advance the dialogue once. Icaria, Blue Blood, Megs, Orcas. I gotta move my mic here. Mic noises. Mic arm. Dirty cops and criminal informants. Lines drawn back and forth across the battlefield like a spider suspension bridge. Dizzying in its complexity, frail along any given strand. But one wrong move and you're completely ensnared. Priorities. Icaria don't care about who tore through Creek's gang, but they would prefer Sasuke doesn't spend life in prison for killing a cop. I hope I'm saying that name correctly, because I've just been saying it, and like, the horrors. The horrors of just saying and pronouncing a name incorrectly, and then no one correcting it, and people just wincing every time I do it. It's fine, it's whatever. The Blue Bloods want to tear Sosuke's throat out, but if Han's taken at her word, they're settling for 5 counts of murder. Can I take Han at her word? Is she a young blood like Creek, or is she with the old guard? Could I have asked? Oh yeah, we've got, so like in the last stream, there was a lot of new characters, introduction, and more deepening of like, we've got the 2 warring factions basically. We have the Icaria family, the high-ranking mob-like, you know, family. Then you've got the I had just but the and then yeah, you have what's it, the what are they called, the fucking, that the Blue Bloods. You have the Blue Bloods, who was the family, the organization that we saw at the very start that Morgan ended up killing and all. And then we learned in that second stream that there's like 2 like, I don't want to say use the word factions again, but 2 like divisions seemingly in the Blue Bloods, where there is what they call the Young Bloods, the new ones, and then the Old Guard. And so they have differing kind of like wants and goals potentially, but like, so we've got factions upon factions, and we've got splits and schisms and divisions in just aplenty, you know. So that's what she's talking about. Could I have asked London that? If I had, could I have trusted his answer? Because it turns out case in London is much harder to read than I anticipated, and I can't even trust my client to act in his own self-interest. The man's a bodyguard by trade and a zealot for his house. Well, we're getting a nice little recap here. The trial starts tomorrow. Do I still need more information? Is there time to find it? No. What I need right now is a nightcap. If I can't fall asleep, then I'll know I'm in trouble. Until then, I guess sleep will have to wait. It's unlocked. Pardon me for dropping in at such a late hour, Counselor Morgan. Standing there in my doorway, she cut through the light like a blade of split ink. Oh, that's cool. See? We love this. Ka-ching. But twice as sharp and not nearly as familiar. It is outside of normal consultation hours, miss. She purses her lips, like lily petals shying away from the moonlight. What's a smirk by any other name? Please, call me, Mire? How do we want to name this? Also, hello. Hello. Happy Sunday to you. The camera's slowly going up as I contemplate the name. Mire? Which one do we like more? Mire? 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 Mire, you say? Alright, Mire it is. Mire. I'll try to remember. Mire. Any last name, Mire? The question floats in the air like curling cigarette smoke. I could tell she was used to the smell. I'll leave that up to your imagination. Self-assured and unapologetic, the unspoken family name, loud as a signature. Also, if that's wrong, if it's pronounced a different way, then it's not on my fault. We can blame faceless chatter. You know what I mean? It's not me. Don't get mad at me. Written in blood. You're from House Icaria? Might I step inside? She blinks. Her head turns a millimeter. A forked tongue testing the temperature of the air. She wasn't asking for permission. It's actually wrong. Is it Mire? Was I right at the beginning? Mire? Don't fuck with me. No. Which one do I go with? Tell me. Just give me a name. I'm just gonna start saying M. I'm just gonna say M. I'm not gonna say M. Neither is right. Fuck. I hate it. All right. So normal rules. I'm gonna say. Mire. I'm gonna say. To me, when I look at it, I'm bad with names. But when I see it and I think, oh, Mire. The Ray is wrong. The me is fine. All right. Let's do the very unscientific. How did it even spell? No, not this. Nope, not that. M-I... Okay. Mind your... Oh, this is gonna be some random...
Mire.
I mean...
Mire.
I'm not gonna be able to do that. I can't be pronouncing names. It's clearly not my forte. How about we all come to an understanding? We do the basic, we always cut me some slack. And if I am wrong, then whatever it's supposed to be, just replace it in your head. It's always like, oh, it's supposed to be this. Mire. I'm gonna say Mire. And it's probably wrong. It's almost assuredly wrong. I mean, just based on that one video, some random video I googled. God damn it. Mire. I'm gonna say Mire. And just understand that I'm just I can barely speak English. I'm not a name pronunciator. Everyone will be fine. Golden. Just you? What about your friends in the hallway? She raises an eyebrow but keeps staring at the floor. She's surprised at my perception of the unseen threat, but not quite impressed. I don't think they need to join us, do you? She was the kind of woman to make you remember. Smoking could kill. Oh, she's so cool. How can I be of service, Mire? I can't even duplicate the video. Mire Icaria? Question mark? Date of birth, October 1st, with a blood type of A positive. Occupation representative, likes sipping alcohol. Oh, dude, same? Rubbing alcohol and arachnids. Dislikes sunrises, black tea, and photographers. Favorite smell, dojo floors. Best at making use of people. The worst at hiding my distaste. She's so cool, though. Am I seeing it right that almost like... Is the thing around her, like... It almost looks like the smoke is, like, creating, like, a collar effect around her. How can I be of service? You're already being quite accommodating, both to me and my family's interests. Came here tonight to be of service to you. I understand that you're somewhat new to this underworld of ours. I'm grateful for the offer, Mireille, but inexperienced as I am, I've gathered that House Ikaria didn't come into its fortune by being generous. Would you like to know how House Ikaria did come into its fortune? I know you operate a landing corporation with a significantly diversified portfolio. Yes, the good old IFG, the public face of the Ikaria criminal empire, clean-shaven as it's become. And I know you founded a pharmaceutical company and profited immensely when it went public. And before that, I know your family became nobility during the years of civil unrest, no doubt by being well positioned when the time came to reprivatize our nation's industries. Yes, and before that, I know you slaughtered the Blue Bloods 30 years ago. Very good, Counselor Morgan. You've acclimated to our waters remarkably fast. What I don't know is why Makoto Karya has been the target of multiple kidnapping attempts over the past year. You can't fathom a guess as to why the Blue Bloods might want to ransom the family's heir? That's the only guess I can make. Strikes me as shallow. Nothing more dangerous than waters you don't know the depth of. As you said, 30 years ago, the Ikaria cartel, an unrecognizable band of brutes and drug smugglers compared to today, massacred the respectable Blue Bloods and left their geriatric leadership to die on the vine. But we thrust the knife much deeper than that. You went after their heirs and their entire fortune. Are you familiar with genetic factor authentication? Using DNA as a password? Blood, specifically. Easier than memorizing a string 3 billion characters long. But GFA's fallen out of favor, hasn't it? The Blue Bloods made ample use of it back then. A bad bet. They already had all their offshore accounts, business titles, property deeds. The Blue Bloods thought they had already won, that they were establishing a dynasty. So as they made their political marriages, they bound their alliances and fortunes in literal blood. GFA was both financial and symbolic laundering of the Blue Bloods' past. Their children, now married, clean-cut and perfectly respectable, would prosper alongside wealth no longer tainted by ill-gotten gains. So the GFA registry became the Ikaria's checklist, who went through and crossed out anyone that could have accessed those funds. Now all of it sits untouchable overseas in encrypted digital warehouses in some of the oldest, most austere banks in the world, collecting interest that'll never be claimed. Does that answer your question as to why they'd target Makoto? No, and you know it doesn't. Because if they thought that they could lock you out of your coffers by killing Makoto, they wouldn't be trying to take him alive. You're paying attention. I like that. We don't use GFA. The Makoto is the heir of House Ikaria to the Ikaria Financial Group. He'd never be tied to our legitimate banking information. Why not? What if he wants to buy a lollipop? A lollipop would be provided for him. The family's black market proceeds and its white market holdings must never mix. You divided your house right down the middle? Pardon the expression, but how can you stand? Atop the backs of many. And you all take this division that seriously? Deadly seriously. That is our family's rule dating back centuries. Either you serve the house or you serve its interests. Never both. So you're assigned to either the criminal organization, what's registered as the IFG, or to managing the family's legitimate business holdings like Renegin. Another word I might... You know what? There should just be... I should never be judged for any proper noun in any game that I'm reading. I could pronounce it just so wrong. And everyone should just nod their heads and be like, yeah, he tried. A pause on judgment for proper nouns, I declare. But that means you are nearly as much as an outsider to the Ikaria financial group as you are. Nearly is doing a lot of work there. Who do you answer to then? Who controls the Ikaria's legitimate empire? Until Makoto marries his mother, and I take it Makoto isn't solely responsible for the house's affairs at his age. Makoto wields great authority as the heir, but yes, the house is led by his father Raphael, and more directly, by his grandfather, our patriarch Daisuke Ikaria. I see. But that puts me back where I started. The Blue Bloods want to hold Makoto hostage to gain leverage on the likes of Daisuke. How can I put this? Had things gone even slightly different 30 years ago, the Blue Bloods would be the ones shaking hands with politicians, marrying ambassadors, and sitting in boardrooms. Some of them believe it can still be so, if the right match were made. They want to marry into House Ikaria, but Makoto's and all the real Blue Bloods are older than... They'd find an age-appropriate adoption. You're missing the point. They need Makoto alive and well to negotiate that kind of reversal of fortune. So they've been trying to capture him for the past year? But every Blue Blood I met today seemed to care a lot more about getting revenge for their dead men than kidnapping a preteen. How many of them do you think Sosuke's cut down in the last year he spent repelling their attempts? Is that a source of internal conflict? The old guard are throwing young bloods into an Ikaria shredder en masse trying to capture Makoto just to elevate themselves. I suppose that all might total up to enough motivation for them to torture Sosuke, yeah? I had heard Sosuke was wounded. No one informed me that he had been tortured. You know him, I take it. As you've gathered, Sosuke deals in matters unrelated to my side of the family, but he is still family. Speaking of my side, I have a duty as a representative of my wing of the house to stress that we do not want this trial to be prolonged. So the bean counters don't care for the extra attention. That makes sense. Do you care about the outcome? A win is always preferable, but not a necessity. Makoto Ikaria hired me to prove Sosuke's innocence. If he's the one signing the checks, did he say why he hired you? He hired you for 2 reasons. Reason 1, his options are limited, more limited than he suggested, no doubt, to keep a strong front. The entire house is currently being audited by the state. Our usual legion of lawyers and accountants are already billing hours as fast as they can, so he wouldn't have his pick of the litter. So one half of the family can't talk business at the dinner table with the other half, but you share a pool of lawyers? Lawyers can be trusted to be discreet, can they not? Yeah, we can read between the lines. So then you'll understand reason 2. Whatever lawyer he did find through the Ikaria's usual connections would, like me, do whatever's best for the house as a whole, and not what's best for Sosuke. I'll make an amendment. 3 reasons. Makoto knew that if he didn't assign him any lawyer, Sosuke would just stay silent as the state dragged him off to be chained, rather than inconvenience the house any further. Well, yeah. I've known Sosuke for less than a day, and even I can tell he's never seen a cross he wouldn't jump at the opportunity to bear. That explains why Makoto would hire someone without connections to the Ikaria. You slow rolling another addendum that'll clear up why on earth my name came across his desk? Littered with crayons and times tables, as I'm sure it was. I hope I've been able to elucidate matters for you, Counselor Morgan. Masterfully set away to say we're done talking. Now I might ask you a small favor in return. Pass this message to Sosuke. If you see a way out, take it. Do you understand what you're asking him to do? Even if Sosuke took a plea bargain, even if I somehow got the other charges reduced to manslaughter, self-defense, the state thinks he killed a cop. The message is for Sosuke, not you. Your interpretation of it is irrelevant. End of conversation. As she reaches the exit, she turns back to look at me, lingering in the doorway like the warm buzz of a strong, dark cocktail. But your assessment is correct. If this were just 4 dead Blue Bloods, our dim little underworld could balance out the ledger unassisted. If that cop hadn't shown up last night... Do you know something about the late Officer Chopin? City in mourning after death of City Councilman's beloved adoptive son in the line of duty. All I know is that his funeral dirge will make these 4 boys' deaths sound like a disinterested sigh. By the way, I must admit you have a lovely apartment, counselor. Changing subjects as subtly as a bullet train hopping its tracks. Quite spacious for a defense attorney. Yeah, place went sell after the tram route got diverted. I negotiated down the rent and then installed all the soundproofing myself. Can't open the windows without being treated the sounds of the city then? There's always a cost. That's one mystery solved then, isn't it? Enjoy the rest of your quiet evening, counselor. So I'm going to adjust audio slightly here and boost that up more. The door glides to a close behind her, easy as a question left unasked. I'm left here hanging on a single held breath of stillness, listening as the deafened thud of her honor guard's implied violence stomps down the hallway behind her. I'm reading faster than the typing. I was still leaned back in my chair, staring holes into my ceiling long after the scent of her expensive tobacco had faded into Knoll. Savoring it while it lasted was beyond me at the moment. My attention's elsewhere. This case is knotted and twisted like a gnarled oak. Just when I think I found my rhythm, the blade runs dull. Carving is an exercise in patience and vision. You need to start with a clear picture of what you want. I want some answers. But for now, I'll sleep. Tomorrow in court, I'll just have to keep whittling away at the wood until I fashion something halfway usable. Okay, so we might do a trial today. If it comes as quickly as it seems like it will, we'll be doing that. I would assume, maybe. And, well, if that doesn't work, I'll use a chainsaw. Which surely means that I'm gonna have to... Which means I gotta make sure, before we get into the trial, I gotta save, just in case something bad goes wrong, because surely I'm gonna be making a lot of mistakes, just like I always do in these games, and just like I did in episode 1. Gotta make sure we be smart. Alright. Hey, cool kid. Yes, you, trying to look all stoic, staring out the window. A little late to try and look detached after that thing you pulled the other day. So that wasn't a joke? Making that announcement in front of the class? You trying to start a detective club or something? What mysteries? Disappearing cleaning supplies? Books not getting returned to the library? Sounds lame. Well, not like that's your fault. Everything's lame. Good luck finding members. Everyone around here already knows what they're going to do after school. And tomorrow, and next year, they're all staring down the barrel of a lucrative career in telling other companies how to provide web services or whatever the hell this school's supposed to train us for. A lawyer? If you say so, cool kid. The Megs will probably have robots doing that by the time you graduate, but sure. Law school's supposed to be hard to get into. You'll need a record that doesn't suck. Getting the club you started shut down because you couldn't get anyone to join probably won't help. Wow, so confident. You really are a cool kid. The doubts, they're coming back, they're creeping back. 11:42 a.m., August 15th, 2086. State Building. Floor 48. Morgan, please, this is... Hold still and relax. This will be over soon. I thought you were joking about the makeup. Of course I was joking. A face like yours is invaluable in the courtroom. And you think covering me in concealer and blush and applying eyeliner will help me appeal to what demographic exactly? You know the names of all this stuff? I'm a modern man. I know the names of many things, including makeup. Is that your eyebrow gel? Yes? It's cakey. Do you want me to do the rest? Or do you want to do the rest? I think some of the jury might find that his wounds make him look rugged. And furthermore, from an aesthetic perspective, leaving some of his buttons undone will... Man, this is the smart type. You know what? No detail overlooked. You got to appeal. Appeal to everyone you can. This is why they're the GOAT duo. Excuse me? You're clearly a very devoted martial artist, Sosuke. You should be proud to display your well-defined collarbones as the fruit of your efforts. You know, in episode 1, I was kind of like, I wasn't meh on Sarah, but I think by the end of episode 1 and now into episode 2, I'm like, Sarah's a great partner. She is a great partner character for Morgan. She's great. It's great. Just hold still. Appearances matter in the courtroom. 95% of defendants who are ever seen in prison garb or at trial are found guilty. I don't doubt your tactics work, Morgan. My tactics included getting your suit pressed. Do you want me to wrinkle it back up? I just find them unpalatable. Trying to get the jury, these civilians, to pity me is shameful. You're worried about honor? Really? You're already a cybernetic ninja, Sasuke. Don't be a stereotype. Don't call other people stereotypes. He's right, Adane. And he's more of a cybernetic samurai, since he's sworn himself to a wealthy land-owning noble. I'm confused, Sasuke. Is it honorable how your family makes their money? Made their money? I'm not talking about morality. I'm talking about having principles. Yes, they're subjective, and yes, they can be hypercritical. But the further you stray from the common path, the more you need them. I mean, what about her? What would Sarah be like if she didn't have tenets to guide her programming? Oh yeah, I forgot that we had an extra term. Now, I think tenets we definitely have read prior. So we don't need to reread that. But the GFA, I do want to read. Genetic factor authentication is a password security system wherein a live blood sample is provided in combination with a username and passkey in order to complete verification. GFA can only be conducted in person with the sample acquired by a trained on-site professional. Because of the physical realities of the verification process itself, GFA is considered cryptographically secure, cannot be bypassed or hacked in any traditional sense. While some security systems and cryptographic algorithms incorporate biological elements in one or more ways, GFA, as it was originally developed, so many commas, has gone largely unadopted throughout the business world. Few corporations are interested in tying information or resources to specific bloodlines as opposed to specific groups. The verification process itself is inconvenient for most, while totally unusable for anyone working remotely. GFA is still offered, however, at some of the most prestigious and secure banks in the world, and families with particularly long lineages have been known to favor GFA for what are effectively symbolic reasons. Because GFA remains accessible to any past or future offspring of the initial registries, it is sometimes offered as a wedding or baby shower gift for couples intending to set up trusts. Also frequently searched how to change lost password fast. Great. I can only imagine. But some people, believe it or not, enjoy their freedoms. Adrift in the middle of the ocean, you're free to go in whatever direction you want. But without a compass, you'll just die of exposure. If you only ever follow exactly what the compass says, you'll sail north until you freeze to death. The point is, if you have a compass, you know which direction north is. Fortunate for us all, then, that the state is a 1,000,000 megawatt North Star pointing towards complacency at all times. And the media is like the wind, and without wind, you'll get stuck in the tide. It was a nice try, Sarah. Ah, forget it. Do whatever you want with your brushes, woman. And you're pouting again. Great. Sarah, just keep him talking. What? If I'm talking, how will you? Trust me, I've done more delicate work before. Sarah, small talk. Gladly, Adane. Sosuke, do you happen to have any tattoos? Are the jury going to ask about that or something? They might. Oh. Well, yes, as a matter of fact, I do have a tattoo. Oh boy. Komenu on my back? Ah, it's fucking word. A guardian dog. Don't make me read Japanese terms. Ah. You have a tattoo of a dog? It's a fierce guardian deity. Like a Labrador or like a great fierce a big dog. Perhaps you should have it changed to some other design, like, say, like a dragon. I get the reference. Like a dragon. Tattoo. Back. Yakuza. There's no switching. The buyer's remorse must be unbearable. There's no buyer's remorse. Lift your chin. You really think they'll feel bad for me because of some cuts and scrapes? You're not good at listening to instructions, are you? The prosecution has to get 12 strangers to agree that you killed 5 men. Each charge has to be unanimous, a perfect score. So any chip damage we can do, any doubt we can sow, we take it. And any advantage we're given, we make full use of it. But the advantage you're talking about is my face. Are you really not used to this kind of attention, Sosuke? Look, it may be true that at times some women have expressed, and men, no doubt. All I'm saying is there's a difference between knowing your strengths and powdering up like this. Pretend it's war paint. Is that how you see it? No, but I'm a grown-up. Thank you for entertaining my questions last night, Sosuke. Did she ask you about your dimensions? The subject might have come up. She's a talkative one, isn't she? Sorry if she kept you up all night. No, she's no trouble, just curious. Reminds me of... We discussed history. Oh, well, then she must have put you right to sleep. Adone, it was his choice of subject. So you read history, Sosuke? Here, I assumed you spent all your free time frowning in the corners of rooms with your arms crossed. We talked about the Roman Empire, for your information. And criminal empires. Nothing too nothing too detailed, I hope. But Sosuke, I still don't understand. What did you mean when you said criminal organizations used to be structured differently? Only that the old ways don't fit in our new 21st century world. Old ways? Well, he's talking about race, Sarah. Race? I don't understand. Well, that's to be expected. After all, you share 98% of your components with a washing machine. That is an untrue and unflattering comparison. Maybe you do get it. Look, Sarah. Names like Mafia, Gokudo, Sani, they all come from different cultures, but they all refer to a kind of path. An outsider's path, and the pride that comes with living by your own set of rules. Those are the first criminal organizations, underground guilds, lending systems, militias, secret societies. Oh sure, they were basically just big friendly charities. Then the world got smaller, and people started moving around, and the mafia changed. It became a way for immigrants to band together to have some kind of power in places that would have given them a chance at anything remotely respectable. But the world kept getting smaller and more complex, and eventually, that kind of community couldn't form, let alone survive. Why? Not enough shared experiences. Shared experiences, I see. Fancy way of saying the internet came along. Well, yes. Technology negates the physical distance between people. When you spend most of your life online, you end up with more in common with people on the other side of the planet than your own neighbors. Real statement. Just because of where your recommendations take you. So, the immigrant experience disappeared? Fractured, more like. Cracked into a million shards with a hammer. While generational or economic experiences got cemented. The world is more diverse and varied than it's ever been, in every sense. Except economically. Wealth inequality is at a historical highs. As has been every year since before I was born. To answer your question, Sarah, that's what binds the members of a criminal organization to one another. Their socioeconomic status. House Ikari is at the top. The Blue Bloods lie below us. Within each organization, wealth is concentrated among the leadership, of course, but each mafia exists in entirely different strata. I see. I've also read about an organization called the Rust being active here in the city. Are they in the poverty class, then? The Rust? I'd put them in the anarchy class. Glowing tattoos and spiked hair, chrome biceps and sharpened teeth. The Blue Bloods, for all their faults, can put on a tie and go to work, but I can't see the Rust experiencing any kind of social mobility. Careful, Sosuke. If the Rust heard you being that classist, the Rust wouldn't care about anything I said or who I stand with. They don't need any excuse to start ripping open modders and grabbing whatever they can. Things like that happen in the city? Only in the shadows, Sarah. Nowhere you'd ever find yourself. Finally run out of steam? On to the grim business, then. How'd things go with your investigation? That bad, was it? Nonsense! It was pretty bad. With what I've seen so far, there's no one else who could have killed Chopin. Even if I manage to pick apart all the evidence for the pod's deaths, they've got a police officer who will swear on the stand that he arrested Sosuke standing over his partner's dead body. What's it going to look like in there? You've never been inside a courtroom? Never as a defendant. I'm just wondering how many cops I should expect. In the gallery? A sea of blue. Cheap intimidation tactics. Yes, but I can't fault them for that. We line up much the same for one of ours. You say that, and yet I don't see any other Ikaria around. This is a completely different scenario, and the house can't afford to appear beside a cop killer when they're being audited by the state. How understanding of you. Adane, I think Sosuke is sad that his friends haven't shown up. Good catch. You were hired by Makoto of House Ikaria, weren't you, Adane? Surely he would want to be in attendance. Don't be absurd. Makoto shouldn't be transported anywhere without a full security team. Besides which, he shouldn't be put through the long elevator ride to this 48th floor just for my sake. What's so bad about an elevator ride? Is he claustrophobic? That reminds me, I always talk, well, I don't always talk about it, but I always remember that, like, back when I was in university, and, you know, like, freshman year, you had to live on campus in, like, you know, dorm rooms or whatever. And I had, like, a really chill dorm that was, like, really small and only, like, 2 floors. And it was probably the best. It was, like, old, but it was small, so it was perfect. But then there was, like, the really, like, bigger, like, dorms that had, like, you know, massive amount of floors that you'd have to take, like, elevators up and stuff. And a friend of the stream, Colton, very claustrophobic. Not very claustrophobic. I don't know what his level of claustrophobicness is, but it's probably tied to it slightly. But absolutely hated getting in elevators. And that's what one of the first things I learned about him, like one of the, like, personal things I learned about him, knowing him in person, absolutely hated elevators. So whenever he didn't live in that one, he lived in a different dorm that had elevators, but we had friends in our friend group. There's a circle of friends that I still talk to today, the ones I, you know, watch movies with every week on Thursdays and all. They all lived in this one dorm that had, like, so many floors, and they lived really high up. And so whenever me and him went up there, I could see him, like, having to mentally prepare having to get inside of an elevator, and when the doors closed, I always felt so bad because he would look so bad. You never really lived on designated student dorms. Yeah, I don't know how common this is around the country here. I want to say it's kind of common, but, like, they always, I remember, like, being, like, it was, like, for lack of a better word, like, a rule that you had to live on campus, at least for freshman year. And so, like, you would have a bunch of incoming freshmen occupying these dorms and stuff. And like I said, my dorm place, great location, super chill, and I was, like, lucky getting it. And then there were, like, people who had, like, the tall ass buildings and stuff that you had to take elevators in. And I felt really bad for him because I was like, every time we rode those elevators so often freshman year, and yeah, he was not happy about it. It's tough. Sarah said, oh, already asked that. No, that is yes, but you cannot tell anyone. Understand? Oh, so he's just like friend of the stream, Colton. Who the hell would I tell that to? Right. Look, it's illegal to stream trial proceedings under most circumstances, but I'm sure House Ikaria doesn't mind paying a fine. They'll be watching from somewhere in the courtroom. That would be a waste of the house's coin. But I suppose they might consider keeping an eye on the case's progression. As will the Blue Bloods, no doubt. Adane, I think Sosuke's spirits have rallied. Really? How can you tell? Let me see, I lived on some house with some rooms near campus that leased mostly to students, and from that I moved to an apartment I shared with friends. Yeah, that's probably nicer. I'd assume, like, they make rules like you gotta live on campus. I mean, they'll say stuff like, oh, freshmen have to live in dorms because it's the college experience and yada yada yada, whatever. But the real answer is because those dorms have been built, and obviously the schools want students occupying them. So, Also, the school I went to for college was very much like, because of its location and it's like right in between like two major cities here in Texas. Like once you got out of like freshman year, a lot of kids would like commute to the university, because they would then take a lot of students would live sometimes in like, depending on certain things, like they'd be like they would live in San Antonio or they would live in Austin sometimes and commute for like half an hour to an hour, for classes and stuff. But I lived in dorms obviously freshman year, and then yeah, I had a year. And then my second year in college, there was something that there was like, because me and Colton didn't get our shit together, we got another dorm sophomore year, but then he left. He left sophomore year, and so I had a dorm room all to myself. And it actually ended up being super chill, having like a dorm room that never got occupied by another person, like another random person. So I had just a room to myself sophomore year. And then junior year was an apartment with randos that was so bad. It was like three other people. I got an apartment off campus, and these people, Jesus Christ. And then my senior year is when me and Colton then got an apartment off campus, and that was so fun. You know, like people are always like, "Oh, don't ever room with like your best friend or whatever. It's dangerous. Something bad's gonna happen, and then you're gonna hate each other." Didn't happen. Me and him had the best. Because he then ended up being like a year later than me because he took off basically a year from school. So it was like his junior year and my senior year, and we just had a grand old time. Grand old time my senior year living in an apartment together with him. So good. So many memories. Not to get nostalgic or anything, but there were some dorms there, but they're for low income. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that would make sense, especially if it wasn't like a built-in system, like I said, where here it was like, oh, you're a freshman, you have to live on campus in a dorm kind of thing. Good times, though. Oh, it's her. Making her appearance. He lifted his gaze and his eyes seemed brighter, as if... Good. Now try and keep his spirits high. How do I do that? Think of something fun. Right. Sosuke, shall we arm wrestle? Arm wrestle Sarah! Don't leave her hanging. Oh. Good morning, Morgan. Good morning, Emma. You seem tired. Want to push this off till next week? Actually, that sounds... Hey. Sorry. But we'll be facing off soon enough. Why not savor the playfulness while we still can? Fair enough. Losing sleep over this case? Not really, no. Things look pretty cut and dry to me. I love how Emma always is like perpetually tired. It's so relatable to me. Always tired. Perpetual tiredness. Never feeling not tired. What about you? You toss and turn all night before your big debut as a mob lawyer? Not at all. I slept like a rock. Lucky. I mean, I've been getting good rest more or less. Just been having a lot of late nights recently. Late nights? Like, going out? No. Ah. Just late night chats? Chatting about what? God, look at all of them. Never seen so many cops in one building. They'd bring a marching band in the courtroom if they could. Theater. Right. Well, theater and trial weren't all that far apart back in ancient Greece. Would hope we'd progressed since then. You don't approve of this show of force, I take it? Is it that obvious? I like to say this is because of who Chopin's family is, but we both know that's not what this is really about. A cop is dead. The state wants to make it clear that that isn't tolerated. Cops volunteer to defend our laws and protect us citizens. Volunteers don't get paid. Besides, cops, courts, the state, all they can do is enforce the laws, not defend them. Guns and arms can't defend against corrosion anyway. Rot comes from the deep. So you'd rather that the death of a police officer get the same treatment as any other citizen? Suppose it's not possible. They get increasingly fewer chances to play the victim every year, and they never let the opportunity pass. No, I guess the best I could hope for is that the state makes the same show of force whenever any crime is committed. If they treated every death like the death of a cop, maybe I could have caught HBK by now. You're still on that? Of course. Shooting deaths are down, but do you know how many missing persons cases there are in this city? How many deaths get written up as mod harvesting attacks gone wrong? It's a big city, Morgan. More than enough blood running through the streets for HBK to launder their kills in. You shouldn't joke like that. What? You don't believe me? Just last month, missing person. The report was filed by their employer when they didn't show up to work, 7 days after they had last been seen by anyone. They were just some part-time worker. No close friends, no family. They went to work, and they came home, paid their bills, and they disappeared. And no one cared or even noticed until their job didn't get done and those bills went unpaid. No one noticed until they stopped buying in. The body was found a full 2 weeks later. The decay was... what happened to them? Blunt force to the back of the head. Something metallic, with a sharp corner, we think. It was a roughly cubed machine part I pulled from a dumpster nearby. It fit snugly in my hand, and it caved through his skull like a shovel through snow. Kicked into the bay. Might not have been weighed down. Just thrown away like a cheap... That's terrible. Did you find any belongings on them? No. So, probably a mugging then, right? No. There would have been other injuries from a struggle. And a thief who accidentally committed murder would be too panicked, too terrified to... You know how muggers think now. I can learn how anyone thinks, even HBK with a robust enough profile. Well, good luck building it all by your lonesome. I'm not working on this by myself. Ah, sorry, right. Did you want to beg for mercy real quick before we begin? It's the gonging of the trial. I should probably save. I have 52 chips to play with. How much you want to bet I lose all 52 chips and die? I would like to think I'm not going to fail here, but now where would that where would be the fun in that? Oh, I saved right on time. Look at that. Throw me in. 12:04 p.m. August 15th, 2086. Courtroom 48D. The courtroom gallery is quite full today, isn't it? Awash in a sea of pissed off cops. Doesn't exactly shore up one's confidence, does it? 5 counts of murder would be newsworthy any day of the week. Add in the fact that one of the bodies belongs to a cop, and a crowd was to be expected. Didn't think they'd be so quiet, though. Maybe they're all just waiting for the firing pistol before they start casting their stones. Don't let it get to you, Sosuke. They're just posturing. Posturing? I understand. I've been in attendance for my share of tense negotiations. But the bloodlust in those rooms was always mutual. You don't feel any animosity towards these cops? I'm used to summoning my temper on command. I might have forgotten how to get angry for my own sake. You just worry about the jury. What about the adjutant? Oh, she's back! Ah, how exciting. They cannot be intimidated by muscle, bribed with cash, or disarmed with fine tailoring. All of which makes them quite favored when it comes to prosecuting organized crime. Have you been in court many times before then? It's an eye for an eye in the world we operate in. We don't file assault charges, we just answer them. Even though that has become rare, the house is elevated. Blue Bloods and Rust and all the rest of the rabble. We're beyond their reach now. And when it comes to our peers, we communicate very differently. Must make being a bodyguard pretty boring. I think your work sounds very rewarding and exciting, Sosuke. Thank you. Especially the other day when you were captured and beaten by your rivals. Yes. What I was trying to hint at, Morgan, is that you should not be expecting assistance from the house. Honestly, thought hadn't crossed my mind. Being on the winning side for once. What the hell would that even feel like? So there won't be any men in black approaching the jury during lunch and offering them paper bags of cash? No. Well, if we do really bad, we won't even make it to lunch, so... Sosuke, what are you staring at? Are you looking for the jury? No, I know they aren't here. It used to be mandated that juries be physically present for court proceedings. People felt it was important that they look the accused in the eye. To help them elevate their character? Evaluate, I mean? Why bother? Most people suck at that. Always have. True. Perhaps it was considered part of the punishment then. To have to look them in their eyes. A punishment for the jury or the defendant. Alright, kiddos. Chins up, shoulders out. Show's about to start. Ah, I just remembered. Do you think the adjutant assigned this particular case? Obviously, it's gonna be me. Obviously. I mean, that's a gimme. Easy. How? It's 80. What are the chances? Our favorite. 80. Wait, did we have the nickname 80 before? 80, 84. 80, 84. September 2nd, date of birth, blood type, none. Automated dependent adjutant. Likes mountain air, gymnasts, and luxury. Dislikes happy couples who ask you to take their photo. Pineapple on pizza until proven guilty. Always returns shopping carts. And favorite quote, let he who is without sin play first or draw first. Perfect. There should be at least 83 other personalities in the building's network. At least. What if in like episode 3 we get a different adjutant? There'd be riots in the street. Streets, multiple streets. Well, Your Honor, thank you for presiding so honorably. I do try. Try. Because it's a trial. Tougher crowd than usual. And that's not counting all the grim monoliths standing tall out there in the gallery. Who died? 5 people, Your Honor. Yikes. What's the damage? 2 counts of manslaughter, 2 counts of homicide in the 2nd degree, and 1 count of homicide in the 1st degree. Buddy, you trying to set a gold split with all that? What's with the record-setting grind set? Grind set, damn. The prosecution stands ready. So, shall we begin? Oh, this is cool. Gong, gong, gong. Let's fucking go. Alright, let's not fail. Now let's crack open these opening statements and get this case summarized. Gladly, Your Honor. People of the court, the defendant in this case is a man named Sosuke Ikaria. He was found at the scene of the crime where 2 men were shot to death. One was stabbed in the neck, another had their skull bashed in, and a police officer was impaled through the back with a sword. Cop killing piece of shit! Please pardon any outbursts from the gallery that your mics may inadvertently pick up. Now I understand that the scale of violence on display here today may intimidate you, but I want to stress to all of you now that your responsibility here today is neither taxing nor complex. You will hear testimony, you'll be shown evidence, and all of it will point towards the truth. That the defendant is the only individual who could have possibly committed these crimes. That is a simple fact. And the only one you need to concern yourself with. Ooh, she's as cold as ice, but every ice age beckons a kindling. For as ashes call to cinders and embers form champions. Defense is ready, Your Honor. Emma did stick to cold logic, so if I follow her with more of the same, it'll end up falling flat. This gallery will never warm up to us, but that can work to our advantage if the jury comes to see these cops as witch hunters eager to start a pyre. Here we go. Choose the most outlandish words you can. Oh, okay. Go for broke. It's not like Masters never taught me anything. I know how to do the razzle-dazzle. Hit him with the old razzle-dazzle, Morgan. My fellow citizens, you're brought here today because an act of violence took place that could only be described as... I mean, unspeakable, I would say. Unspeakable. I should know. I was there. I saw the blood on the ground, the bullet holes in the walls, felt the... malviolence. Felt the malviolence that radiated in the air. And I also saw where my client was held prisoner. And I knew exactly where he must have stood. because his sweat and blood had stained the tile. My client, a decorated veteran, the man you see standing next to me here, not even fully healed from his torture, was taken into police custody with lacerations, bruises, internal bleeding, broken bones. And while he was in police custody, he somehow sustained a black eye, busted lip, a broken nose, and a boxed ear. A puzzle which I'm sure any one of the officers in the gallery today would be happy to testify about. You gonna let her say that? You want me to object during an opening statement? Much is resting on the outcome of this trial. 5 men lay dead in the morgue. One of them, police officer, Tariq. Don't speak his name, you mob lawyer bitch! Hang him up! Hang her too! This is... Hey, we like to have fun in this courtroom, put on a good show, but that's because we're on the stage. Any more outbursts in the gallery and I'll clear the entire room. Yeah, order in the court says 80. You can all watch the rest on your phones or peek in through the keyhole like a bunch of sweaty looky-loos. Counselor, let's wrap this up. Yes, Your Honor. The fact of the matter is, on that night, my client was not in any condition to kill anyone. Not 4 hardened criminals, and certainly not a trained police officer. And nothing about my client's background, his associations, or that of the victims can change that fact. So as you listen to all the evidence in this trial, with fairness and impartiality, as I know you will strive to, I only ask that you focus on the reality of this horrible crime, and not on the fiction that the people will try to weave for you. Thank you. Decorated veteran? You telling me you never earned a single commendation? Most push-ups of the day or something? Never mind. I suppose it could have gone much worse. You're too kind. I was trying to be honest. The crowd got agitated, but you maintained a level head and recovered your tempo. Adonai is a master at doing so. I've seen her make comebacks from the most nonsensical mistakes before. In martial arts, they call it a yukemi, a graceful fall. That is basically correct. Well, try not to gracefully fall over when you see the first witness on the docket, Sasuke. What do you mean by that? Your name and occupation, for the record? How can that be necessary? If some blathering idiot in that courtroom doesn't already know who I am, they don't deserve... I know, but would you consider it if only for the sake of ceremony? Ceremony is important and should be respected. Very well. I am Makoto Ikaria of House Ikaria. My occupation is that of a student. Try not to look so smug about it when you blatantly lie. Right, of course. And your position with the Ikaria Financial Group? Is not salaried. Must I really declare it here? Hard to imagine why the noble house of Ikaria is getting audited. Sosuke, are you alright? Can he see us? He can see me, Rockford, and the adjutant. Witnesses tele-testifying don't really need much else. So he's safe? Yes, Sosuke, he's safe. Like he was yesterday. Probably sitting right where I left him, or standing on a box. I think the hologram's given him a boost so he can see over the stand. That's good. The boost to his height? That he's safe at home. I'm sorry that he can't see you, Sosuke. Don't be. After how horribly I failed him, I'd like you to speak a bit about the events of August 13th. About the last time you saw the defendant, Sosuke Ikaria. I'm here today, not physically, but here nonetheless, as a courtesy. That does not mean I will flap my gums like some sort of flapping gum puppet. Permission to treat the witness as hostile incoming. Emma Rockford raking a spoiled brat over the coals. This will almost be worth the price of admission alone. I understand. It was a traumatic experience, I'm sure. Anyone of normal upbringing would barely be able to recall a single detail, let alone the day's full events. Normal upbringing? I should probably dismiss you so you can get back to your summer studies. Summer studies? Like some common waif? Waif? It's quite the vocab poll. I didn't know they taught that in state basic. Basic? Was I mistaken? Listen well, Madam Rockford, as I demonstrate to you exactly how misguided you are about my powers of retention. Please do. Played like a damn fiddle. Why wasn't she mentioned during any of our trial preparations? Emma profile. Remember date of birth, February 13th. O positive. O positive blood type. Assistant District Attorney, Art Museum's Amethyst turn-based RPGs as likes. Dislikes ballrooms, boardrooms, clicks. Favorite quote, flower in the mirror, moon to the water. Moon on the water. Favorite subject, psychology. Exercises by subject seem not to hear the question. True. Real statement. Adonai has only won against her once. So far, every hot streak starts somewhere. Hot streak. I really am going to prison, aren't I? Where shall I start? As far back as you can. Simple task. For the past year, members of the organization, most commonly referred to as the Blue Blood Mafia, have been making attempts on my life. Did you steal their lunch money or something? I'm the primary beneficiary of my grandfather, Daisuke Ikaria's will. In common parlance, I'm the sole heir to the Ikaria Financial Group. Could buy so much lunch. The group you know as the Blue Bloods have been jealous of my family's financial foresight for decades. I'm merely the most recent target of their impotent attempts to nip at our heels. And 2 days ago, on August 13th, how impotent was their attempt then? I was leaving a meeting held in the upper floors of Crane Tower. My security detail escorted me to the elevators, where we would then proceed down to their canopy access floors. This was all planned out in advance? By my head of security, Sosuke Ikaria. But the elevator became stuck with unnatural timing. When Sosuke pried the doors open, we saw that we were stuck between the 62nd and 61st floors. Pried open? With a tool? Leading the witness, Your Honor. He didn't need a tool to open the doors. His bare hands were more than sufficient. Help Sosuke out there, kid. We submitted evidence the defendant's Akita Type 2 military-grade spinal mod, designed to enhance strength, endurance, and reflexes for high-intensity combat scenarios. Yes, sir. It is so admitted. What happened next? The decision was made that we'd crawl out into the 61st floor and head for the service elevators. But once Sosuke and I exited, the elevator started up. It was a trap. We had been cut off from the rest of my detail. You were isolated and defenseless. That must have been... Ha! Hardly defenseless. You really think my personal head of security wouldn't be armed? He had Yoru. Don't tell me. You named your sword? All great swords have names. Thank you, Sarah. Very well put. Let the record show that the witness has identified Exhibit B3 as belonging to the defendant. The sword is recovered by the police in a known blue blood den in the lower wards, found impaled into the body of Tariq Chopin. And forensics has been that the only fingerprints on it and those of the defendant. Has shown that the only fingerprints on it are those of the defendant. There's still time for you to disown it, Sosuke. You understand nothing about a swordsman's heart, Adonai. Once again, it is your paralegal that has the right of it. Perhaps she should be leading my defense. If this somehow turns into a fencing competition, I'll gladly defer to you two. So you, Sasuke, and Yoru were on the 61st floor together. What happened next? When we arrived at the service elevator, Sosuke called them, and then they made a chime. And I didn't clearly see much of what happened next, to tell the truth. Figures emerged from around the corners. They were aiming weapons at me. A red dot shone on my chest, and then Sosuke was there, and a needle was sticking out of his arm. Yoru glinted. Sosuke had drawn it in the blink of an eye. Something glanced off it and dropped to the floor. I saw a syringe at my feet. Yoru's sheath was thrust into my arms, pushing me back into the elevator, and I landed on my rear. That's clearly a key piece of testimony. Let's play it back 5 times. What matters is he pushed me back into the elevator with Yoru's sheath. How I landed is irrelevant, and should be stricken from all public records. Only other thing I saw was Sosuke's back. He slammed his hand against the elevator's control panel, and then the door shut. That's the last time you saw the defendant? The decision was made that I should get on a VTOL as soon as possible, but much of my detail stayed behind to assess what had happened. Yes, they're very helpful to building security and recovering Exhibit 5C, this hypodermic needle gun. What kind of bonehead would have leave evidence like that behind? A bonehead in a rush, perhaps, Your Honor? It does appear to have exhausted its gas canister, so it may have outlived its usefulness. I take it that this weapon is a match for the projectile needles found in the room where my client was restrained? Correct. Others exactly like them were recovered from the scene of the ambush as well. Lots of evidence. Let me just clear through these. Only 3? The blade. The needle gun. The needles. Great. Makoto, did you see the faces of the men who attacked you? Ha! All too clearly. I can tell you every detail of their rough-shot countenances. Ah, that sounds like a good bit of testimony. Hit it! Needles. Yoru. Just 2? A pineapple head-like man and a raincoat-clad hooligan came at us first. They aimed at me, but Sosuke got between us and blocked every shot. With Yoru, he could have closed the distance, but then a dark-eyed scoundrel approached from the right. And a man with a ridiculous pompadour took advantage of that distraction. I'll never forget the faces of those cowards. They tried to kill me. So whatever happened to them afterwards, I'm sure they deserved it. Makoto's putting his talents for hyperbole on full display. I'll have to fact check his description in order to get the ball rolling. So what were the 2 cards I was given? Yoru and the needles? I want to say it's probably needles on that earlier statement. This is the exact minigame in this where I ran into like the most trouble, like pairing. And this is just like Danganronpa, where it's like you have to match the evidence piece and the sentence, and you're like, I got one of these things. Let me just to be on the safe side, let me see the needle. Yeah, I think it's here. So I think the thing is going to be that Makoto here is saying that he blocked every shot, but that's not the case, because the needles in the substance in the needles is the same thing here where it says it was found in Sosuke's bloodstream. So he obviously didn't clearly block every shot because he had to get hit to then get drugged and then get taken. I think it's pretty simple. So I think I know the sentence. I've already pieced it. Pineapple head like man, it's not this. They aimed at me, but Sosuke got between us and blocked every shot. I'm calling that. Whabam! Needles. Throw that card. Hiya! Shit! What do you mean? wait. Already starting strong. Oh, what are you even trying for, counselor? Just checking to make sure you're on your toes, that's all. Sounds like BS. I don't believe you. Overruled. Okay, so already... Where are you going for, Adane? I'm trying to point out Makoto's misunderstanding about the nature of the attack. Just need to find a way to show it. Was there something on the... Oh, I can't. Okay, we gotta be careful now. Now the pressure's actually dialed up. Let me see the sword. Is there another bit on the sword? Bladed weapon found. Fingerprints on it. Handle will match the right. No other prints. Blood residue at various points of the blade. That's a bit about that. Bladed weapon found. Steel is chipped at several points, especially the tip. Steel is chipped. The steel is chipped. I feel like it's gotta be needles, though. I gotta probably match needles to something. I would think, right? I don't think it's this statement. Blocked every shot. That's why I thought... Maybe I'm misunderstanding the... Would it be needles and that they were trying to kill him? Because we know through the talks with that Melee, that they weren't trying to kill him, right? So maybe if we continued on that logic, so maybe needles and then this statement where they were trying to kill him. That's gonna be my next guess. If the needles aren't there to be non-lethal, I'm gonna say this. All right, maybe I'm. Please. Okay. No panic. No panic on my side. We're fine. Everything's great. I'm the smartest. They couldn't have been trying to kill the witness, not with non-lethal projectiles. I guess I probably should have seen this first. I brought it. I was fine. I love the post once I get something wrong and then I get it right. Always like the post assessment by me where I'm like, yeah, I could have done that better. Could have done that better. It's fine though. They fired a lot of them. The witness doesn't weigh that much. Don't try it. This attack was clearly planned with the intent of capturing Makoto alive. Meaning what? That 4 of this case's victims were actually soft-hearted pacifists? There's nothing soft-hearted about what they did to my client after capturing him, using tools they clearly originally planned to use on the witness. So they're sadists. I'm getting confused here. So is the defense, Your Honor. What matters is that the witness has identified the defendant's captors as the 4 Blue Blood victims that he accused of murdering. Makoto did establish that much, but something about this attack still bothers me. Emma put Makoto on the stand specifically to identify the victims. Is it possible that the men who attacked them weren't Creek's pod? This one I'm also always iffy on. I think we stay. Actually, I don't know. I'm gonna stay. And probably be wrong. I don't disagree, Your Honor. The men who attacked Makoto and took Sosuke captive are the same ones who ended up dead that night. But 2 questions do occur to me. Why were you safe on that service elevator if Sosuke surely collapsed the very moment it shut? Wouldn't these men have pursued you by any means necessary? That is... I can answer that, Your Honor. When the police inspected the scene, they found that the control panel for calling that elevator on the 61st floor was broken. Smashed, in fact. The attackers would have had to manually pry open the doors to even attempt to chase after Makoto. And that would take remarkable, modded strength. Did you mash the button that forcefully, Sosuke? I may have used more force than necessary. I wasn't exactly trying to hold myself back at the time. He hit the controls hard enough to break them? So the Blue Bloods couldn't pursue you further, and instead elected to take Sosuke captive. A Sosuke in the hand is better than a Makoto in the bush. That's funny to me for some reason. The head of Makoto's security would surely have made for an invaluable source of information for planning future attacks. Were he made to talk? Are you denying that? No, but I would like to ask the witness one other question. Why did you get off the elevator in the first place? What are you... Hey, what I mentioned in the lobby earlier, that's... The mics might not be picking up on it for you, but from where I'm standing, I can't help but overhear my client groaning about how badly he failed you. That's not evidence or testimony, and so should be stricken from the record. But we get the idea. So was bailing out early the defendant's big brain idea? As head of my personal security detail, such a decision is ultimately his to make. However, that decision may have been influenced by his knowledge of the fact that I am not especially comfortable in enclosed spaces. What the hell are you doing? Are you trying to humiliate him? In part. I'm also trying to insult you. Had we simply waited, we would have remained safe, but I was not comfortable and felt very warm. So it was not a tactical failure on Sosuke's part, per se. Just an error of judgment. Counselor Morgan. What's up? You can disconnect the call if... Ask me another question. Ask me about how bravely Sosuke defended me. Huh? So that's your angle? We can't all be as naturally gifted at extracting valuable testimony out of spoiled brats as Emma, but I can follow her example. insult their pride, and these Ikaria snap back, as reliable as any knee-jerk reaction. And in Makoto's case, with infinitely less resistance than if I had simply asked him to testify, it's usually the lawyers who do the asking and the witnesses who do the answering. This is not very realistic. We ask that the witness testify for the court in more detail about exactly how valiantly Sosuke fought off the attackers. And I guess the people don't object, even though it seems super extra? No, the people don't object, Your Honor. Emma's playing passively. Either I'm onto something here, or I'm walking into a trap. Screw it. All in on the former. Needle guns. Sosuke med records. Needles. Needles, needle gun, med records. Sosuke was outnumbered from the beginning and protecting me the whole time. It didn't matter that we were ambushed or that the Blue Bloods had projectiles. Sosuke took up Yoru in both hands and swatted their needles out of the air like a graceful swatter. He fought off 4 attackers without sustaining a single injury. Okay, I would assume that's the med records. Mock him if you dare for being captured. But that's not a failure, not by any general's definition of the word. Okay, so I'd assume it's going to be either med records on that statement or, again, the needles, and it was in his bloodstream. Let me see exactly, just to, again, I'd rather play cautiously at this point, after what happened in episode 1. So I'm going to, where are med records? Med records, med records, med records, med records, med records, med records. Kario was apprehended at the scene of the crime and placed in a medical transport. Injuries noted at the time. Blood from various sources. Well, the med records are from when he was actually being tortured, probably. Impacting a hard surface. Slight laceration found in left hand. Internal bleeding throughout the torso. Numerous bruises. Oh, there's blood across the tops of feet and pants legs. Largest wound found on the crown of the skull. Bruised left eye. Busted lip. When or where these additional injuries were sustained is not noted. Do I take a chance then there? Let me see what Sarah says here. Hearing Makoto describe Sosuke's heroism, it's almost more impressive the second time. He definitely fought without a care for himself, and there's evidence to show it. Yeah, I'm going to say med records on the where he didn't sustain. Seems like the right thing to do. A graceful swatter, he fought off 4 attackers without... I think it's this. I think... Whoosh. Gimme... Hi-ya! And if it's not this... Yeah. Okay. We're good. We are fine. Unscathed is the last thing anyone would call my client after the events of that day. One look at his medical data from where he was arrested will tell you that much. What are you getting at, counselor? The defendant's injuries were sustained at the Blue Bloods' den, not at Crane Tower. The police didn't even find... Nope. The police didn't find even one drop of blood anywhere near that service elevator. Well, that is a miracle. A bloodless ambush. But the fact that no blood was found makes it all the more painfully obvious that what actually happened to that elevator panel. The elevator panel? Ugh. My client broke half the bones in his left hand, smashing it up. Did you really? I might have. There was a lot of adrenaline at the time. Did you not form a proper fist? Was your wrist not in alignment with your forearm? As I said, Sarah, there's a lot of adrenaline. Do you deny that his medical record clearly shows his left hand was broken? Your Honor, what does it matter that the defendant broke his left hand closing that elevator? It changes nothing about the witness's testimony. I think we got a raise here. I'm raising. Hiya! Of course it does. How so? No! I got overconfident. I just saw an opportunity to fire back and I was like, surely. Without even thinking. Just do it. Just throw it. It's fine. Try to think before you speak, counselor. This adjutant has enough trouble staying focused as is. Well, it may be true that this wrinkle doesn't change the witness's testimony, but it does change the nature of the evidence you had him identified for the court. Honestly, just like Sosuke, the adrenaline was pumping, and I was like, just click raise, it's fine. The katana? Yoru. Yoru. Its name is Yoru. We get it. Did you have a point to make, counselor? There's something odd about the katana that's been entered into evidence. Something that makes no sense given what we've learned about the outcome of this ambush. Namely, the swords... Oh, I know there were prints. Chipping. There's chipping on the sword. We saw prints. There was a note about the prints. I don't want to check it again. Blood. There's something about blood on it too. All of these I remember. Ah. Those are all a bit on here. What's the backlog say? There's something odd about the katana that's been entered into evidence. I'm playing oh, you get to listen to the ticking noise as I... There's the sword. Fingerprints on the handle match the right hand. No other prints. Blood residue at various points of the blade matches the DNA of victims Chopin, Miller, and Trey. Now, the testimony did say that he grabbed the sword with both hands. Didn't Makoto say that? But then we only see handprints of the right hand. Is it the prints then? Am I overthinking? Namely, the fingerprints that were found on the sword's handle. Fingerprints belonging to Sosuke's right hand. You're contradicting yourself, counselor. We've already discussed how it was your client's left hand that he broke closing off the elevator. There's nothing contradictory about him using his right arm to wield the blade. Can't be like this because Sosuke has two hands. The people are correct. Sword found at the scene of the crime has my client's right hand fingerprints on its handle, despite the fact that this witness just testified that Sosuke was swinging it with both hands. Like a graceful swatter? No, that's it. I thought that was Makoto talking. They're both orange text names. Like a graceful swatter, specifically. Oh, yeah, he did say that. So, did the little tyke misremember? It was a chaotic situation where he feared for his life. The court should hardly expect him to have kept track of such an inconsequential detail. Have you already forgotten my magnanimous powers of recollection? Her tactics from earlier backfired. I'll have you know I can recite all my subordinates' birthdays down to the hour. Write them all down so I can calculate their moon signs later. Doesn't matter whether the witness is mistaken about Sosuke's grip, Your Honor, because we have a much bigger issue to address. Why this sword has only my client's fingerprints on it. Makoto testifies that Sosuke wielded this katana in his defense, an act of bravery that ended with my client face down on the floor of Crane Tower. He later woke up, held captive in the lower wards. I'll state the obvious here and say, while he was unconscious, he was moved. And so the sword we have in the record must have also been handled by... Oh, this is slightly different, but not very different. Okay, an act of bravery that ended with my client face down on the floor. While he was unconscious, he was moved. And so the sword must have also been handled by... It'd be a person that then took him to where he ended up getting moved to get tortured. So it wouldn't be Chopin. It wouldn't be Makoto. It'd be Creek. Right? That only makes sense, right? Because he was moved. It's not like he was moved from, like, the police weren't then there on the scene. Makoto wouldn't have moved it to where he gets moved. I'm betting the max. Our poor victim, Creek, of course. What do you mean? Sosuke was knocked unconscious at Crane Tower. That means that someone else must have brought the sword down to lower wards. And the only people who had the opportunity to do so would have been his captors. You mean his victims? Withdrawn. The defense is forgetting a fairly simple fact, Your Honor. I'll read withdrawn. Either voluntarily or in response to an objection sustained by judge, attorney may withdraw their comments. Officially, juries are to disregard any comments that have been withdrawn and should not take them into consideration when evaluating the evidence, witness, or charges laid before them. Oh, dude, I forgot to say, and this is funny because now I'm talking about this. I was summoned for jury duty next week. How coincidental that I'm playing of the devil. And that might be me next week. I might be in a jury trial thing. How exciting. Not exciting. Actually, it's a pain in the ass. It is my 3rd time getting summoned for jury duty, potentially. And I've never actually been used in a trial thing. I've either been very quickly dismissed or spent the whole day just waiting around and then dismissed. It's just a pain in the ass. Just a pain in the ass. The defense is forgetting a very simple fact, Your Honor. There's more than one way to hold a sword. Oh, worm? In case the defense needs it clarified, Creek could have simply held the sword by its scabbard. I always get these wrong. I'm raising again. That's not possible, Your Honor. Makoto has already testified that Sosuke left the sword scabbard with him when he thrust him back into the elevator. Oh yeah, true. Your sheath was thrust into my arms, pushing me back into the elevator, and I landed on my rear. I see. And since a cursed sword can't be resheathed until it's tasted blood. Yes, Your Honor. Very well said. We would have found the scabbard at the Bluebird's den if Creek or his men had taken it with them. Instead, I imagine Makoto took it home. You think he took key evidence from his own assault and kept it from the police? Of course I did. As if I would trust officers of the law to properly handle a family heirloom as precious as your sheath. Impressive insight, Adone. But what does this actually mean? Is there some mistake with how the evidence was handled? There's no mistakes here. This was all done with intention. The intention to frame my client. Whoosh. Oh, that's cool art. I like that. I like that pose. I like that sprite. Boom! By putting his fingerprints onto that sword after the real culprit had already handled it. What a load of bullshit! And the crowd goes wild. Though it does make a certain kind of sense. Because it's the truth. I did wipe that katana's handle down after removing it from Trey's throat. Sosuke just happened to be foolish enough to pick it up himself afterwards. It's frustrating, having to keep all my best cards up my sleeve this time around. But the look on his face when I do get to toss them out is... Oh, cool. The people are more than ready to counter. Oh, what's this, music? Oh, shit. The people are more than ready to counter if it pleases the court. Oh. The defense has made an admirable effort to barrel ahead with this theory. Admirable, but predictable. With foundation this week, charging ahead and hoping the court won't notice is the only option. Let us speak of the facts. This Creek character led a targeted ambush on the heir to House Ikaria, knowing he'd be guarded by a full security team. The Blue Bloods successfully sabotaged and intercepted Makoto's elevator at the precise floor they wanted, meaning they knew exactly where he'd be and when. And they brought with them drugs capable of disabling a veteran with military-grade mods. God, I'm so distracted by the music. Planning and attention to detail may be foreign concepts to the defense, but they should at least be able to recognize them. So is the defense seriously suggesting that after all that preparation, Creek's pod wouldn't bother to wear gloves? Glad you asked so nicely. Oh, Creek's fingerprints. Another max bet by me. So this proves that he wasn't wearing gloves if his fingerprints on the needle gun. We don't need to speculate about whether they wore gloves or not. Not when we have Creek's fingerprints on a weapon recovered from the crime scene. That is a pretty good point, actually. Guess these guys were sloppier than we thought. Those blackguards were barefaced when they attacked us. Idiots. As if they wouldn't be repercussions for their actions. Least they could have done was disguise themselves. Strike that from the record, Your Honor. Along with any future comments to suggest the Ikaria would want revenge against these victims. I was only speaking a plain truth. Creek was their leader, correct. If even Creek wasn't wearing gloves, It's hard to imagine that none of them got their prints onto Yaru. Unless the sword was, indeed, wiped down at some point afterwards. Like right around the time the true culprit was looking for Sosuke to take the fall. It's a spicy theory. It's just that, Your Honor. A theory. A game theory. A far-fetched, unstable theory that strikes presumptions upon each other. Presuppositions, not presumptions. Presuppositions. Like a flapjack chef substituting quantity for quality. I'll rephrase. This inconsistency is easily answered without jumping through the defense's absurdly arranged hoops. That's a little better. We already know that the Blue Bloods had successfully taken down the Ikari's head of security. And we already know that they went out of their way to take the defendant captive despite him not being their original target. Furthermore, as the defense has belabored, we know that they decided to take a useless piece of steel with them from the scene of the crime. Useless? If we ask why, the answer is obvious. Because orcas are superstitious and immature. They wanted a trophy, and what is there to do with a trophy other than polish it? The cloth from Creek's desk. I knew she flagged it in ARCs for some reason, but she thought this many steps ahead. The defense is correct. The sword was wiped down before Sosuke took it up as his murder weapon, by the very same victims he'd go on to claim with it. That is a completely logical explanation, damn it. How do we respond to that, Adone? We... check. Poker terminology. We don't. I can't. It makes perfect sense. So, does that mean that she's described what actually happened? Not at all. I wiped off the sword myself because my prints were on it. Same as I wiped my prints off of every other... Right. If I can't find fault with Emma's conclusion, I need to find fault with the logic that led her there. I see. And how do you do that? By adjusting my aim. As the people say, Your Honor, no one's fingerprints but my client's are on the murder weapon. That only makes sense if he's guilty or being framed. And there's no evidence to suggest that he's been framed because his captors had valid reason for wiping off the sword. That's true. They did have good reason to wipe off the sword. But that's not the murder weapon I'm referring to. Boom. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It would be Magus, right? Hiya! This gun is the murder weapon I'm referring to. What? The police are confident that this Magus... I say Magus. Magus? It's probably Magus. Is the gun that was used to kill Tanks and Creek. And your client was arrested with it on his person. And it has your client's prints on it. But it was owned by Tanks. The record shows that Sosuke's are the only fingerprints... That Sosuke's are the only fingerprints on that doohickey. So that means this Tanks guy never laid a finger on his own gun? It's entirely possible that Tanks simply liked to polish his gun, too. Phrasing! So he was polishing it right up until the moment his captor grabbed it and used it against him? More phrasing! Was it before or after his internal bleeding that my client took the gun off Tanks without him even laying a finger on it first? Before or after being tortured that he got the gun with no struggle? They could have wrestled over the gun while it was out of reach. Tanks had no injuries besides the hole in his chest. How'd he get into a struggle and not get so much as a scratch? The likelihood of that scenario would seem to come down to the order in which each individual died, no? Yes, Your Honor. Then perhaps we ought to hear some more detailed testimony about that. Of course. The defense has no more questions for this witness, Your Honor. We don't object. Hold on. What are you saying? Okie dokie then, closing the connection. I said wait, is Sosuke... Makoto seemed to be in good spirits, wouldn't you say? Yeah, he was his usual irreproachable self. So how can you find something about that to be depressed over? I'm ashamed that he testified at all. His appearance here runs the risk of sullying the house's visage with my mistakes. Well, you couldn't exactly slip the subpoena by claiming he had homework to do. You of all people should understand that the house doesn't have to appear in court if it truly doesn't want to. A fine levied on your accounts is always preferable to a smudge staining your reputation. But he did testify. Yes, and he no doubt went directly against one or more family elders to do so. He should not be incurring debts for my sake. So he put himself at a disadvantage for you. Do you think Makoto would want you to apologize? Or do you think he'd want you to thank him? He's young. He doesn't know what he wants yet. Yumi, oh, she's back. Yumi Sato, medical examiner. Yumi. Sarah. Dr. Sato, we're very grateful for your work sorting through the large number of reports related to this case. She's back. March 3rd. O negative type. Medical examiner. Brushed metal. Grilled fish. Cardamom. Dislikes frame interpolation, split ends, and surveys. Coat. Very easy to sanitize. Splurges on live show tickets. A thing you should splurge on. If you can. Phew. Yeah, 5 bodies, all high priority. Had my head underwater for a good while there. We'd prefer not to tax you with repeating every grisly detail. But if you could, would you please walk the court through the time of death for each victim and the manner in which they were determined? Right. From the top. Anchor Tan, aka Tanks, had a mishmash of street legal and chop shop mods along his forearms. None of them were particularly up to date, but they were all working, and they did monitor his heart rate. Tank's heart stopped at 9:44 p.m. The cause of death was... The slug had a hollow design, intended to shatter inside the target. There's no mistaking that he was killed by his own gun, the Magus, from a distance of 1 or 2 meters. Next up is Sungmin Trey Trench. He also had relatively low-end mods installed, and they show his heart stopping at 9:45 p.m. He died from exsanguination, blood loss, exsanguination. Yeah. Blood loss resulting from a laceration across his neck by a sharp metal blade. That wasn't the only injury his body sustained, though, was it? No, it was not. Posthumously, his skull was... So no evil. I like that. Heavens Miller Smiles received a puncture wound straight through his jugular vein. Then the blade was withdrawn, exacerbating blood loss, and he was likely unconscious within seconds of falling to the ground. Miller had mods, but evidently gone to great lengths to remove all monitoring tech from them, and he was not found with any electronics on his person. Using purely medical means, I narrowed his time of death down to a window of 10 minutes between 9:40 and 9:50 p.m. Even though I killed him third and he was the second to die. That brings us to Creek. Yes, like Tanks, Lakers Creek Christoph was shot once with a hollow slug from a distance of 1 or 2 meters. However, the slug penetrated just beneath their solar plexus and failed to completely shatter when it impacted a low-end spinal brace mod. As a result, Creek didn't die immediately. It is my medical opinion that Creek would have slowly bled out over the course of about 5 minutes. Their mod did not have biomonitoring capabilities. So, like with Miller, I've done what I can to narrow down the time of death to a 10-minute window between 9:40 and 9:50 p.m. So there's some wiggle room, there's some gray area. So he was barely modded, and he stayed conscious that whole time anyway. But we do have one other context clue to work with. This datapad was found very close to Creek's body, and technicians confirmed that it requires Creek's fingerprints for most functions. That means it's unlikely that anyone else would have been able to manipulate it. And we found that the last action taken on it was an attempted dark card transaction that failed at 9:44 p.m. What could cause a dark card transaction to fail? Either they hit cancel, or the card itself was jostled, interrupting the scan. As if the datapad was suddenly dropped? Speculation? How much qualification does one need to understand that card readers can be finicky, Your Honor? True enough. Chip, swipe, pin, tap. Just let me buy the damn balloon animal, you clown. So, taking that digital device into account, Creek must have been shot almost at the exact same time as Tanks. Thank you. There's one more body you examined for this case, yes? Officer Tariq Chopin. I didn't need to determine his time of death. As a patrol officer, he had a standard suite of police-issued biomonitors, so we know that Officer Chopin's heart stopped at 10:14:04 p.m., triggering triggering an automatic 10999 alert. Officer down. Lighting up that crime scene like a firecracker and ensuring every cop in the city would come running, royally pissed and safety's off. Choplin was impaled through his back by a long, thin blade, severed his aorta, and as a result, he died instantly. To summarize then, we can conclude that Tank's gun was taken from him before 9:44 p.m. He and Creek were then shot with it. Their attacker, out of ammunition, took up a sword and stabbed Miller in the throat, before slicing into Trey's neck. This individual then proceeded to posthumously crush Trey's skull by striking it so hard that they shattered a baseball bat. As Creek bled to death on the other side of the room. Finally, when Officer Choplin entered the scene, they stabbed him in the back, before finally being apprehended by Officer Rogers. That's all correct, as far as we understand it. So now Rockford's put together a timeline. It's probably helpful for the jury, putting it all in chronological order. But have we actually learned anything new about the culprit's actions? We have. Emma brought her on the stand to establish the culprit's position. No, time or methodology? I mean, timeline. It would make sense if we pick time. But is it more... She wanted to establish the starting time of all the murders. Shit. Wasn't that pretty obvious just from the one autopsy? Tanks died first as Mods confirmed it. Well, yes, but the fact that Tanks and Creek died first, combined with where their shooter stood, tells us in what part of the room the culprit must have started their killing spree. Oh, position then. Damn. Correct, because Creek and Tanks died first, and they were both shot from within 1 or 2 meters. We know that the culprit must start taking action right by the desk, and not by the door to the holding room. Indeed. I'm such a smooth brain, dude. So the likelihood that my client broke out from there is not very high at all. Check. Yes. An abundance of DNA evidence establishes that the defendant was indeed held in the other room, but clearly he didn't remain there. His captors must have taken him out to question him in the main room and dragged him in front of the desk where Tanks' gun would be within reach. You're the one who's reaching. You have evidence to the contrary? A better explanation for how he got out of where he was being held? This is an aside, and I think I said this in episode 1, or maybe I alluded to it, or maybe I said it inside my head and I didn't say it out loud. But like, I would not be surprised if the big secret to this over all these episodes is that Emma is like a million steps ahead of Morgan. And it's revealed at some point that Emma knows that throughout all these trials, that all she's doing is trying to pin more and more evidence onto Morgan as being the heartbreak killer. You know what I mean? Like, taking on this, and Emma already knows wasn't Sasuke who did all this, and it's like, she's just trying to, like, if, like, imagine like final episode of this game is like recounting all the evidence from all these previous trials to then pin everything onto Morgan, and then Morgan has to, like, in the final episode, like, defend herself somehow or whatever. Like, that's how I envision all this happening. Like, that would be the ultimate, like, final episode is like, you just, like, recall all the moments and the trials and everything, the scenes, what have you. I could see something like that happening. It'd be cool. Anyway, I digress. A better explanation for how he got out of here, out of where he was being held? Can't exactly propose that the real killer set him free as a scapegoat. Forensics are clear. My client was gagged and bound in that room. But clearly, they had to cut him loose to question him. A mistake that ended up costing them their lives. Do you think that's true, Sosuke? I'm not positive, of course, but my body's telling me that I was held in that room from the time I woke up until I got myself free. Emma's theory about the Blue Bloods being dumb enough to let Sosuke near a gun is imperfect, but it's still a theory. I don't have jack shit to counter with because not even Sosuke knows how I'd let him out. If defense has no objections, then they'll just have to take this L and meekly move on to their cross-examination. Adone, that made you sound very feeble. You've developed a habit of only using we when I'm winning. Fix it. that made us sound very feeble. Why do I have to get roped in? Emma's already established a timeline and an order of events. Could pick at the details, but she's close enough to the truth already. I know the truth, firsthand, about every death except Chopin. In his case, Em and I are on even footing. So what's my advantage? What do I know that everyone else is mistaken about? I mean, she would know the timing exactly. She would know in between those gray areas, like the time windows. Most of them know the murder weapons because we have the autopsies. There was no questioning of that. The cause of the death is almost the same thing as murder weapons, right? I think it's timing. The timing of each killing. No, what? How? God, I shouldn't be so surprised when I hit a wrong answer when it pops up as wrong, but like I still am every time. I'm like, how could I be wrong? Creek took a while to bleed out, but that matters a little here. Sato went to great pains to reconstruct all their times of death, but she can't possibly know. It's fine. I'm only losing a chip each time. Right. Man, sometimes it seems like I'm just not paying attention at all. So when I get like back-to-back wrong answers out of 3 choices, it's like, are you even playing the game? I swear I'm just bad at putting things together, I think. No, I think what I'm bad at, if you want to find fault, I just am not on the same wavelength as the writers, maybe. Being on the same page, like I'm just like, Oh, the scenario writers, I don't know. All right, right, the murder weapons. Everyone thinks Miller was stabbed in the neck by the katana. I'm the only one who knows my knife was there. Oh, yeah. There's got to be a way I can use that information to my advantage here without revealing that I have it or how I got it. I'm walking a razor's edge here. At least it's thematically appropriate. The defense is ready to begin our cross-examination, Your Honor. Oh, it's this minigame. Okay. Dr. Sato, you were asked to examine all 5 bodies. Did you visit the crime scene? I did not. Have not. Photos and other ARCS data were provided to me to aid in my examination. Surely the defense isn't objecting to a little virtual work? Of course not. After all, had anything been added or removed from the crime scenes, an ARCS would show it. There's no fooling it once it's been set up. I'm going to ask about the blade wounds. Victims Trey and Miller were both attacked with a blade. Exactly how fast did they die? Trey had his throat slashed, and blood found on his hand suggests that he had time to reach up to his neck in response. But he would have quickly stumbled back and collapsed on the floor, dead. Miller wouldn't have lost much blood at the moment his neck was punctured. For that kind of wound, the weapon acts as a stopper. But once the stopper was removed, he would have lost consciousness in mere seconds. And while the blade was still in his neck, if it was there for more than a second, he too would have reflexively reached up, presumably to try and grab the blade. I'm pressing. Is there any evidence that he tried to grab the razor-sharp katana lodged into his neck? He had his own blood on his right hand, but there were no cuts in it, because he grabbed the knife's handle, not a sword's edge. So it stands to reason that the blade was withdrawn very quickly. By the time his hands reached up to his neck, it must have been gone. One of many small inconsistencies with this katana theory I can shine a light on. Will that be enough? I'll go in. We go deeper. Stabbing Miller's neck so precisely and so fast, that would be quite the feat of swordsmanship. Stating a conclusion, Your Honor. Comments withdrawn, quick as a blade. Have you ever seen a stab wound like that one? Or like the one that killed Miller, inflicted by a long blade? And wielded in one hand by a man experiencing heavy blood loss? No, can't say that I have. Now whether that maneuver is impressive or improbable, well, I'm a doctor, not a fencer. And Sosuke doesn't own a rapier. Continue, sure. Did you find that the stab wound on Miller's neck fit the sword that the police recovered? Because we know of the knife, so I think we would press into this. Approximately. That doesn't sound conclusive. The entry wound is slightly smaller than I would expect for such a precise stab. The sword hand must have barely trembled, but it's within tolerable ranges. Furthermore, DNA on the tip of the sword is a match for Miller. Damn it, just because I happened to drag it across where his blood had dripped. And of course, there isn't any other implement at the scene that fits the wound better. No, of course there isn't. Now where do I go? I think if the game was like, hey, about the stabbings and all, we continue with this. Stabbing Miller's neck so precisely and so fast, that would be quite the feat of swordsmanship. Wait, that was already what I did? My bad. I think I should have... For some reason I thought... Let me try this then. Well... Do I... I'm clicking this at the risk of being so wrong. Could you speak a bit more about the manner of Officer Chopin's death? Well, to reiterate, his body was found with the katana stuck through his back. It had punctured his heart, killing him. There was massive blood loss at the scene, at least in part because the wound in question was agitated, I suppose I'd say. What do you mean by agitated? Honestly, as though after impalement, the blade was moved around inside the wound, as if it had become stuck and someone was struggling to remove it. London mentioned that Sato found this wound odd, but to hear her specifically say the blade had become stuck, well, I'm glad I didn't get penalized for clicking the same thing again. I thought it changed the terminology, but whatever. That's interesting. Thank you, Dr. Sato. I think I can speak for us all when I say I found that very enlightening. Blackjack. Dr. Sato, you just testified that Officer Chopin was impaled from behind. Did this occur on the spot where his body was found? Yes, it did. Body shows no signs of being moved. I'm curious then. What was there for the sword to get stuck on? Huh? Well, if Chopin was in the center of the room, standing upright, I mean, it wouldn't have gotten caught in the air, right? Bone, perhaps? Surely you examined the wound inside and out. Did you see marks on his ribcage where the blade had caught? No, I didn't. Then it stands to reason that the blade didn't get caught on anything inside Mr. Chopin. It got caught on the floor. Pardon? You need to take greater advantage of the arcs, Counselor Morgan. Learn to flip things on their head. Spin the chessboard around, Morgan. Entire rooms, if need be. If you had, you'd see that there's clear indentation in the floor that lines up perfectly with Mr. Chopin's wound. How did you think the tip of the sword got chipped? You're saying the sword got stuck on the floor? That's what the facts are saying. Do you disagree? I'll stay here. I don't necessarily disagree, no. If Chopin was impaled, then fell face first. It makes perfect sense for the sword to get caught on the floor as he collapsed on top of it. So we can conclude that after being impaled, Chopin fell over with the sword still in his torso, driving the sword into the ground. Then his attacker aggravated the wound by trying to retrieve the sword from his corpse. Does that sound right? What? Are you asking me? Sort of, asking the room, I guess? Well, I believe I can answer. What you're describing makes sense, Dr. Sato, but only up until we consider again the fingerprints on the sword handle. If my client really did impale Tariq Chopin and get his sword stuck doing so, why would he try to retrieve it with only one hand? Because he had to retrieve it with one hand. You yourself already elucidated that the defendant's left hand was broken when he destroyed the elevator panel in Crane Tower. His left hand was too damaged for him to even grip a sword? That doesn't square with this piece of evidence. What piece of evidence? It wouldn't be the blade, because that only has that. Left hand. Right hand prints. Left hand prints. Your Magus. Hiya. Max bet. The Magus? How could my client's left hand be too damaged to grip his sword, and yet also capable of gripping the Magus? Oh, we are in triple-digit chips. Oh, dude, I'm doing so much better this time. Episode 1, I was flailing so bad. I was bleeding chips so bad. Oh, man. That oddity is hardly impossible to explain. We've already determined that the Magus was fired twice before the sword was used at all. Firing such a weapon with a broken hand surely rendered his left useless. It is difficult to wield a sword with a damaged hand, isn't it, Sosuke? Historically, even the loss of a pinky on your non-dominant hand was considered enough to render you relatively defenseless. Is that why Yakuza would offer to cut off fingers as for offenses? That's right, Sarah. In fact, cut the chatter and save the history lesson. He had to pull the sword loose with one hand because his left was useless. Looking at all the forensics pulled from the katana, that's... Your Honor, the people claim that my client had to use one hand to retrieve the sword because his other hand was disabled. But does the evidence actually suggest that? What do you mean? Forensics performed on the katana found my client's right hand fingerprints on the handle, but what grip are the prints a match for? Let me just give it a quick think here as I meticulously analyze the position of each finger. Oh, dude, does he have a reverse grip on his blade? Is he fucking like, ooh, Kingdom Hearts reference. Is he like, Vexen? Not Vexen. Ventus. Ventus from Birth by Sleep with the reverse Keyblade grip? Vexen, damn. Pulling out an Organization 13 member incorrectly. No, Ventus. You know, I'm a sucker. As a kid, when I was a teenager, I was playing Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep on the PSP, and I was like, oh, that's so cool with the reverse grip on the blade. If I was a sword man, if I was a blade wielder, if I lived in a different life and I had to use swords for whatever reason, I would train myself to use a reverse grip. It would be probably not practical, but I would find a way. I would want to be cool like that, man. Give me the reverse grip. I'd make it happen. I gotta be unique somehow, you know? I'm gonna become a sword person. That's it. I made the determination. I'm becoming a sword person. I don't know what I'll do with it, but I'm just becoming a sword person. Let me just get... Oh, I read that. A normal grip. The grip is normal. Do you mean to say that the thumb is facing towards the blade, Your Honor? Well, yeah, but isn't it easier to just say he held it like normal? If my client only held the sword with his right hand normally, Your Honor, that would mean he held the handle like that even as he tried to jostle the blade free from the floor it was impaled in, which is far from impossible. But if, Your Honor, the court has questions about exactly how the defendant was positioned when he was found standing above Officer Chopin's corpse... Oh, did I jump to conclusions? Is it not a reverse grip situation? Did I just get excited to make a Kingdom Hearts reference about not Vexen, but Ventus? Damn. I believe the people's next witness will be able to answer all of them. That can only mean it's finally time to face off with the arresting officer. Chopin's partner. Very well. Then let us summon to the stand. No name not found. What? What? Is that a family or given name? What? Yeah, got one big old error right here, and it's classic. Witness not found. Literally. He ain't here. What? Nice. He's had hours to get here. What the hell could he possibly be? Her star witness is a no-show? Is this good news or bad news? Like hitting the jackpot on the world's sketchiest slot machine. Feels good, but you get the feeling that the staff is going to make you pay for it. That idiotic. Pay for it when? Fine, I'll finish it myself. Right about now. Perhaps it's for the best then, Your Honor. Oh, it's that music again. Just enjoy it for a second. I feel like after... I need to... I'm always afraid of listening to a game's soundtrack before finishing it. Because you don't want, like, a music spoiler. Like, whether somehow a music, like, title, like, or spoil something, or, like, you want to wait to hear it in-game. But I feel like once I finish this episode, I gotta listen more of, like, of the Devil soundtrack. I gotta find it. Perhaps it's for the best then, Your Honor. We can save the court the trouble by wrapping up things here now. The facts are simple, and the defenses fail to refute them. Thus, the people call for summary judgment. Already? The defendant is the only one with his prints on the gun. He is the only one with his prints on the katana. His own employer testified to this court that he was attacked and captured by 4 of the 5 victims. He was found and arrested standing over the body of a dead cop before 2 more officers arrived and secured the scene. That must be Reyes in London she's referring to. As the only living person left at the scene of the crime, there was no one else who could have committed these murders. She's on a tear, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't entertaining, but it's only because she's on tilt. She was thrown off by her witness flaking, it's caused her to overstep. She just fired off a lot of claims in quick succession. Which is the weakest one? Where do I counterattack? I mean... Let me see exactly. I'm re-going. The facts are simple. Defendant is the only one with his prints on the gun. He is the only one with his prints on the katana. His own employer testified to the court that he was attacked and captured by 4 of the 5 victims. He was found and arrested standing over the body of a dead cop before 2 more officers arrived and secured the scene. So this is true. Captured by 4 of the 5 victims is true. God, this music. Do I just want to guess? I mean... Which is the weakest, she said. What's the weakest? Police testimony. Fuck it. The police testimony she's made reference to hasn't been presented to court yet. But if it's not as if Rogers could be lying about arresting Sosuke. Ah, shit. That was my thought process. I'm like, oh, we haven't really gone into that, so how could... Whatever. We're all standing here because he was arrested. All right, so not that. I'm gonna go... I'm only losing a chip each one. I'm going with... Murder weapon? Only suspect. She just claimed that Sosuke is the only one who could have committed these murders. She can't possibly prove that. She can't prove that there wasn't anyone else there that night because I actually was. And unlike her, I can prove the possibility of another party being present without having to reveal their identity. The people are mistaken, Your Honor. My client wasn't the only other person there that night. And there's evidence to show it. Yes. Used white prints, question mark? Yes. Classified documents, hard to copy, easy to destroy. It wouldn't be the bat. Are we doing red ink? I'm feeling less confident on this. Minimum bet, red ink. These documents found at the scene of the crime tell us that someone else must have been there that night. How do they do that? By putting in red? Nah, I knew I shouldn't have. Not funny. Guess not. Shit. Okay, so it's not red ink. Dark card? Cloth? Broken bat? Dark card. Oh, it would be dark card because I, myself, Morgan, used the dark card And this would be a bit of information that Morgan has. All right, I'm increasing max. Here we go. My confidence is back. What is that? The dark card found lodged into Creek's datapad? That's right. There, I made back my money. We're fine. The perfect payment option when neither you nor the businesses you frequent like attaching names to faces. We've already discussed that within moments of Creek's death, a transaction was being attempted on his datapad. A transaction made using this dark card. But whatever for? Perhaps some of the handful of illicit substances that were found at the scene of the crime? Oh crap, yeah, almost forgot. These guys were drug dealers. And drug dealers get customers, Your Honor. Customers that can be very temperamental when things go south. Are you trying to suggest that these killings were the result of a drug deal gone wrong? I mean, they sort of were. A drug deal made in person at a Blue Blood stronghold? Dark cards require a passkey and a fingerprint. Card would be useless if its owner wasn't physically present for the transaction. A transaction that might be abruptly canceled if tensions boiled over. A potential buyer would likely have been across the desk from Creek. The same spot in the room that we've established that the killer must have started their rampage. Cute idea, counselor, but there's no meat to it. We know that Creek was using that datapad before he died. And we know that the dark card was processing a transaction at the time. But for some reason, you've made the assumption that he was selling. When the simplest explanation is that he was buying, using the dark card that he owned. The dark card belonged to Creek? How will you respond? I don't need to respond with evidence. I just need to point out the flawed evidence she's constructed her argument upon. Oh, I gotta pick. Found on Creek's desk. It's Creek's, Chopin's fingerprints. So her whole argument is that, or, you know, Emma's is that the transaction was his. But if the datapad is the thing that's processing, like, the payment kind of thing, then wouldn't it be that? That would be my guess. I'm doing 10 on the datapad itself. Because the datapad probably, I don't, probably has something tying him to Creek, and so you wouldn't be then buying it. You really think the datapad found on the scene belonged to Creek? Technicians confirmed that it was keyed to his fingerprints, so... Wait, am I misreading the... I like that picture, though, of Morgan. Wait, I think I might be misreading something. Dark card. Wiped all prints known only to rich and criminals. Leader of the Bluebird Pod, Face ID by Makoto. Do I go max on the dark card then? Characterization, Your Honor. It's a 50-50 shot. Increase your bet to max. It's fine. The people are claiming that the dark card in the evidence record belonged to the victim, Creek, despite the fact that it has no fingerprints on it either. Oh, what is this track? No, you got like jazzy big band, like kind of... What? If that dark card had belonged to Creek, he would have had to insert it into his datapad with his teeth. Yuck! So who did the dark card belong to? Perhaps a customer who didn't like his prices? A disgruntled customer could have wiped their prints off the card to hide the fact that they were ever there. It's absurd. If a customer brought that dark card with them to the crime scene, why the hell wouldn't they take it with them when they left? It was stuck in the datapad. Could have pulled a little harder. They could have taken the datapad with them. Who would leave behind something that valuable? The card is worthless to everyone but its owner, to whom it could be priceless. Why would they choose to leave it behind? The answer to that is simple. If I'm honest, we're discussing the possibility of a deal gone south. What could cause that in the first place? Aggressive negotiating tactics? Or a customer who couldn't pay? What are you... This customer could afford a dark card, and yet they couldn't pay. Hold on. You're trying to say all these deaths, all this carnage, you think it's all because their card got declined? Hard to live down that kind of faux pas. Murdering 4 or 5 people in order to skip paying your bill is pretty aggressive, but if you need your fix, Is there any indication that contraband was taken from the scene of the crime? Your Honor, that is difficult to say. Without knowing their inventory before the crime occurred, we cannot rule out the possibility. That was a little lackluster of a pushback. Is she really that thrown off by this witness playing hooky? Well, I hate to do this, because I love spending time with you all and having a physical body and being ensouled, but it does seem like I have to declare recess while we wait. Perfectly reasonable, Your Honor. That's the most romantic thing I've ever heard. What? Court is now in recess. So, Aurea Holdings is not part of House Icaria? No, it is. House Icaria is comprised of the literal Icaria family, the Icaria Financial Group, and Aurea Holdings. But much of those parts is a separate identity from the others. Or each, I should say. That is very confusing. No, it's... Well, yes, it can be confusing, but it protects us. Protects the IAFG? No, protects the house. From itself. If everyone in the Icaria family was a member of the IFG, and the IFG was called the Icaria family, that'd be much simpler. I feel like I'm losing my voice. I knew it would be simpler, but that's... Who the hell is this guy to keep Rockford waiting? Are you addressing your question to me? I've never met the man. Well, he's met you. Smacked you upside the head and cuffed you. If you say so. I told you I don't remember anything after I walked out of that holding room. Chime in at any time. Apologies, Adonai. I was just trying to answer your question. Who the hell is Officer Rogers? You find his socials or something? I found a news story, attached to a live feed. He's shaking hands with some men at the top of some stairs. Right now? What's the headline? City Council members thank heroic officer for his service. Oh, well, that makes sense. How can it? Emma's outranked. If the politicians decide now was the time to do photo ops, she doesn't have the pull to go against them. Are Officer Chopin's parents there? Yes, both of his fathers were present. Adoptive fathers. Are you trying to make me feel better? Adoptive or not, they are his parents and their pain is real. Of course. But that pain would be equally real if they weren't expressing it in front of those cameras, don't you think? If you're feeling guilty, Sasuke, please get it out of your system before the trial resumes. I don't feel guilty. Even if I did kill that officer, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. But that doesn't make it right. Taking a life, parents having to outlive their children. And here I thought you'd be all about filial piety. You telling me you wouldn't take a bullet for your patriarch, Daisuke? Of course I would. And force him to outlive his son? How could you? Adopted son. From a branch family. Do I need to point out how badly you're contradicting yourself? Daisuke Icaria could have let me waste away when the rest of the Hayakawa branch was killed. Instead, he placed me at the right hand of power. A seat of honor. A subservient seat? All seats are subservient. Not the one at the top. I didn't know the rest of your birth family died, Sasuke. Retaliation for the fall of the leaves. Quite the dignified way to refer to the Icaria killing all the Blue Bloods 30 years ago. Anyway, it was my understanding that this was a complete and total victory. The kind that left the Blue Bloods incapable of counterattacking. Very nearly so. Do you disapprove of what happened 30 years ago, Sasuke? Of course not. The barbarity of the house's enemies left it with no other choice but to act. No way out, huh? By the way, I was asked to pass along a message to you. If you're given a way out, take it. Who told you that? Oh, you have a won't say option. Why wouldn't I say? Did she say not to say who it was coming from? M name. She said her name was, what was it? What we determined? Mirai. Now I got 3 chips for it. Can't be completely wrong. Who is she? A powerful member of the house, on the side of Aurea. Slow down, loose lips. I didn't ask for her whole life story. What? Oh, sarcasm. Sorry, I'm just surprised. Surprised that she would take a personal interest in the outcome of this affair. So, did that message mean anything to you? I'm not sure. You're a terrifically helpful client. You know that? You know that? There's something you should know about me, Morgan. About the Hound of Icaria. I didn't earn that title as a bodyguard or a head of security. And I didn't learn how to kill in the military. The Hound of Icaria is the house's personal assassin. What happened to the House of Icaria being refined? Elevated above their criminal past? The house is elevated. That status was granted it more enemies than ever. Enemies that need to be taken out silently, but undeniably. Undeniably? What I do is send messages. They need to be received by the right people, and they need to know who it's from. You kill so that the other houses in the nobility know it was the Hound, but can't prove that House Icaria was responsible. Their own pride over being able to handle things internally, and their humiliation at being outplayed ensures the deaths stay out of the papers. So the entire police force can descend on a jaywalker caught by reflection off of a dash cam, but the nobility gets to wave off the surveillance state with a perfumed handkerchief. Flaunting how the rules don't apply to them. Like I thought, very pure expression of power. So all that talk of you being Makoto's head of security, that was all true. I have been Makoto's head of security for the past year. Did your career business dry up? Circumstances around Makoto had changed. I was asked to step in and fill a role. And what you said about guarding the previous heir, waving your katana around as soon as you could walk? The circumstances were different then, too. Why tell me now? Because now that I've seen her, I don't think Rockford will have missed it. No, why didn't you tell me yesterday, the first time we met, when I could have actually prepared for this? Clearly you've got some deeply held desire to rot in prison since you won't help me win this case. But what happened in the last 5 minutes that you've suddenly got cold feet? Adane. Yesterday, I thought you were just some outsider in over their head who would surely drown if they knew who they were defending. Today, I think you're an outsider in over their head who could stay afloat with a lifeline. Thanks for the heads up. 5 minutes notice really comes in handy when your client asks you to catch a bullet. Excuse me. I'm sorry to disappoint you too, Sarah. I can't imagine you're pleased to be defending a self-confessed killer. I don't know what you went through when you were a soldier, and I have no idea what you've gone through as an assassin. Yesterday, Adane suggested I shouldn't speak about those kinds of things, since I have no experience with them. I don't know if she's right about that, but soldiers and assassins do exist in this world, and they are still people, and I think I would be sad if I couldn't talk to any of them. On a related note, could you catch a bullet, Sosuke Icaria? No, Sarah. But you're a cybernetically enhanced martial artist. Bullets are very fast. That is true. I could probably catch an arrow if I knew it was coming. Tell me more. Alright, is that going to be the break we need? Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and save there then. Whoops. Bang the table. There we go. Oh, I gotta clear all these. Let me get all this out. I can't live with an exclamation point on my phone. Nope. Great. Let's save there. Perfect. Honestly, with the disaster that the episode 1 trial that I that I partook in, I'm gonna say so far success. Success by my part. Not too bad. I did want to get to a bit of Nier Automata, so we will have to call it there for this. But like I said, we'll probably, during the week, probably get, unless we finish it the first day, we'll probably get to 2 streams of The Devil this week. Like I said, tentatively think like Tuesday and Friday to either finish it or get very, very close to finishing this episode is going to be kind of the goal this week. So we will be working to finish Of the Devil for sure is the main priority to finish this week. I'm going to throw a BRB screen up. I'm going to stretch my legs because I've been sitting and reading for 2.5 hours. And then I'm going to get Nier Automata loaded up. And we'll play that for a bit. So I'll be back shortly.